welcome to my podcast. My name is Luke. Today's subject is sleep paralysis. Now, the reason I've chosen to spoke about this today is because I've had many experiences from a very young age growing up into the hundreds, I would say, and I've had a very profound experience. After many experiences, I've had a very profound experience which was able to give me some insight as to how to kind of evolve on from there, and yeah, give some incredible experiences. So I do believe there are many people that I wouldn't want to use the term suffer, but I believe there's many people who experience sleep paralysis and don't have a good experience with it, myself included at the start. So there's lots and lots I'd love to dig into with this subject in particular, topped off with an incredible experience again to kind of give you my story as to how to kind of use it to your advantage and see what lies beyond, because it's astounding. Before I get into that, though, I'd love to thank all of you guys for watching, for liking and subscribing to my channel. If you're watching this relatively recently from the upload, you would see that I'm very new. The channel's very new, and the support I've received from you guys, the subscriptions, the likes have been amazing, and I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I think it's important that I take the time to thank you all viewing, watching, subscribing, liking. It means everything to me, and I hope you take something from my experiences and my stories, and a big thank you again. So I want to go to the start of my experiences. I think it's important that I give you my story and my take on it, because I think that's what I'm here for, and I'm hoping in some form, in some way, it will help one of you guys out there, because I think many people experience it. I think many people don't understand it, and I also believe many people kind of shrug it off as it's nothing, and that's fine. If you choose to be that way, that's absolutely fine. But I'm someone who likes to analyze, understand as much as I possibly can about the unseen world, because in my opinion, it's a much larger part of reality, I believe. So I'll start from the very start. So I would say probably from my early teens, I would say I was experiencing what the term is sleep paralysis. Now, for those of you who have experienced it, you'll understand roughly in some form where I'm coming from. For those of you who haven't, I'll try and give you an example and how it feels. So you're kind of in that in-between state, that state of meditation, I would call it, but it's the state where you're awake, but you're close to falling asleep. So in that specific area where we are all very much in touch with the unseen world, and in that state, sometimes you would drop into a space where everything looked the same, but you knew nothing was the same. So, for example, I could be in this very room now, experiencing this line of vision exactly how I am, but you would know, you would kind of feel the difference, that you wasn't in that space as such. You was in a different space within the same space, and that's how I would feel a lot. And hence the word paralysis. You would feel at a point where you couldn't move. You was in paralysis. Your body wouldn't move, and well, I'm talking from me personally. I would be able to see from the eyes, but looking around the room and not able to move. So it would be quite scary initially. And I would personally fight very hard to kind of come out of that experience. And the only way I could do that was by kind of making a movement of some form and really battling to try and get out of that state. So that was what I used to battle with quite a lot. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had them experiences. Now, as it went on, I would have different experiences, kind of experiencing different entities in some form, ones that I couldn't identify, but I knew they were there. And this carried on for many years, and kind of shrugged it off. And some nights it wouldn't happen. Some nights it would be 10 to 15 times in a row. Other nights once or twice. But as I got older, I would notice that I would be in that state, and I would say a lot of entities, a lot of vibrational frequencies, as I like to call them, different entities that I believe exist in different layers of reality, would try and do what they can to kind of scare you. Now, I won't go into details about what I've experienced and seen because I don't see it's relevant. I mean, I think it's kind of self-explanatory in some form. If you can imagine things trying to scare you, you can imagine some of the things that they would try and manifest as, or even the physical. Even though it wasn't physical, I would even feel my body would feel actions that they would do as well. Not really to the point it would affect me as such, but it was kind of, you knew you was kind of in that space in between of being in your body, but kind of not. So it's a very unusual space to be in, very difficult to describe. But after many years of these things trying to scare me, you get to a point, I guess, where you get used to it, which is where I eventually got one day. Now, over the years, I've had many different experiences. I've had some really beautiful, amazing experiences in these spaces too, which is why I want to talk about this, because I think this is the starting point for me, and I think for many others as well. And basically, I would say that once you lose that fear, everything changes. Now, fear is a huge subject. Fear is something that I like to talk about within most things because I think it's relevant. I think it's a great tool to understand what it is trying to show you and what it's there for a lot of the time. But the moment I lost the fear, everything changed. And that was, I mean, it's a lot easier for me to sit here and say, once you lose the fear, it all changes, and that's all you need to do. I mean, it's a very easy thing to say, but it's not an easy thing to do at all. So I think for me personally, I had that many experiences that I just got to the point where I was immune to it, and it was just like, here we go again. But it would still give you that element of fear in some circumstances, because there were some horrible things that I would see, which I'll come into a bit more now. But when I had my true awakening, because I've been someone with all these experiences, I've always wanted to learn more, hear other people's stories, try and understand what I can do to make it better, and also just to understand it in general. I think for me, I just love to understand and realize and do my due diligence on things just so I can understand them more. And I remember, never forget this one night in particular, where I had the realization of just how real what we call the unseen world is, and just also how real the polarity of this reality we live in is, the good versus evil, the good, the bad. It was almost like the biggest realization I've ever had, and there's no way I can really describe it other than that. It was a huge realization after lots of research, intuition based, and experiences. Now, when I had this realization in particular, I'm not talking about this experience today because it's not relevant, but I will do eventually. But after that realization, I had the most incredible experience in that space, which was stunning, angelic, in fact. But before that, I want to rewind back before that experience, because I think this point is going to be quite important for many people. But once we're in that space, we're in that part of the astral where our light body, our astral body, our soul, whichever you like to call it, is just about to leave and go on its adventures for the night. Whether we're conscious of that or not, it's something I absolutely 100% believe, and I'm sure many of you do too. So as we're in that space, we do unfortunately live in a realm, in a world where we're surrounded by a lot of lower vibrational energy. I would say that's done on purpose with a lot of things. I'm sure many of you have your views on that, and that's probably something I shouldn't talk about today on this particular podcast, but would love to delve into that a bit more. Some of you might have your own views, I'm sure, and yeah, my belief is that we are living in a very low vibrational realm, which I do believe is changing and raising. Now, in the meantime, for me, realizing that was huge, because I also realized, well, if we're in a lower vibrational reality, then things can obviously go up from there, which is what I found incredible. Now, in this state of sleep paralysis, which is the only term I can really find and use that makes sense to most people, we're within that space where we see the lower vibrational entities that I believe surround us in our living physical reality. We just don't see them. Now, in this space, I had seen that many times. I've had experience with these, what I call tricksters, many times. They do everything they can to scare you. Now, that's not done on by accident. That's done on purpose. Now, I believe personally that these negative entities that exist in these realms are purposely trying to put fear into you so they can live off that energy. They're energy vampires is what I believe them to be. Now, I've been in that space many times where I've had many surrounding me, sat on the end of the bed, walking around the room. I don't see much more than that, but I've had many experiences where they try to scare me. They try and do certain things, say certain things. Now, fast forwarding after all those experiences, I'm going to get to the point where I changed my approach and it changed everything. I had the most incredible experience after that. So after many experiences, after many hours and hours and hours of research, understanding, listening to people's stories, I come to the conclusion, okay, so once I lose the state of fear, I'm no good to them at this point. I'm at that point now where I'm useless to them. Now, there was always a part of being in that state, in that sleep paralysis, where I would be fighting to kind of what I would call stay in that moment, stay awake, because I always felt like I was going to be dropping into something else. And I wasn't wrong about that either. But what I was wrong about is the fearful aspect. So this one particular time where I was in that state again, I had these entities around me trying to scare me again. I lost the fear. I think in my mind I was saying certain things to basically raise my vibration, and I genuinely wasn't scared at this point. And at this point, I actually ended up passing through the negative entities, and as I was passing through, I could hear them disappearing. They were actually I could hear the voices disappearing in the background as I was going through this space. So after this, I basically went through this space and I astral traveled. Now, it's never been something that I've tried to do on purpose. I would call myself an accidental astral traveler, and I am planning to do a video series of my experiences I've had. Because there's been many of them now. So I will be doing that. But I think going back to this space, this story, this podcast for today, I actually was able to physically and mentally watch in real time the lower vibrational realm disappear by raising my vibration in that moment, by losing the fear in that moment. Now, I think I'm hoping this is received well by some of you. I'm sure it won't be by everybody, and that's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. I understand it's a very unusual story for some people. But, I'm standing in my truth, and I think it's important to explain this because I was learning these things for a long time beforehand. And for me to be able to learn about them and actually progress and see it happen for myself, it's difficult to not talk about, because I think, how many people will benefit from that? I think we all have fears. We don't live in fear, but we all have fears, and understandably, these entities will manifest in ways they know that scare you. So I think it's really important, I think, to tell you that they can't do anything. They can't hurt you. They can scare you, and they can do lots of things to make you scared. But I can tell you now, there's nothing they can do to hurt you. There's nothing they can do to scare you. And I think once I got to that point, like I said, everything changed, and I was able to move on through and travel in different dimensions, in different spaces. And I mean, that's a whole nother story in itself, because that was the most incredible experience I could ever have, and anyone probably could ever have. And it was from in that moment understanding that we live in a world of polarity. We do have to kind of stomp through the marshy fields, if you like, to be able to come up and move into that next space. And I think the times we're living in now are very much about that. I think the earth's raising its vibration. We as a collective are raising our vibration. And in the meantime, we are going to have to go through this space of the negative to be able to push on up and through. So I do think that, you know, there'll be a bit of turmoil with that. But I think ultimately it's for the good. And yeah, so like I said, going back to the story, as I moved into that space and lost the fear and took charge of that moment, I can promise you that they disappeared. I moved through, and I was traveling all over the place, which will be another story. So I'm hoping in some way that there's somebody out there, or somebody out there, that will benefit from this story, because I think there's so many people who have these experiences. Now, the people that I've met and that are open and enjoy this type of conversation, they all have the experience with the negative, with the scary parts. And I just want to say to all of you, you have absolutely nothing to fear. There is nothing they can do to hurt you. I've been there. I've tried everything. I've experienced it all. There's nothing they can do, but they will do what they can to try and put that fear in. Do not succumb to it. And it's easier said than done. I think it comes with time, but they are energy. We are energy. There isn't anything they can physically do. And I think knowing that point is a start. The awareness of that is a start. And as I said, what lies beyond is unbelievable. This reality we live in, this universe we inhabit, is nothing short of incredible. And as I said, I'm somebody who I would consider is an accidental astral traveler. I'm not somebody who has all the answers like some people do. I'm just somebody who's lucky enough to have these experiences. I've probably had about 25 now, and I can usually tell within a minute or two whether I can enter that space or not. So I'm not somebody like some incredible people out there who can astral travel, remote view at will. I mean, I do know I've experienced different dimensions. I know I've experienced remote viewing and the Akashic record too. And it's difficult to explain how I know that. But the difference in experience and the things that I've learned, my intuition basically is telling me that. So yeah, I'm hoping this one today has had some form of value for you, whether it's helping you to not be in fear of certain things when you're in that state of sleep paralysis, whether it's for your parents, for your brothers, for your sisters, for your friends, just to give them that word of there's nothing to fear, there's nothing to be scared of, but also understanding that there is a level of realness to it. It's the space that exists beyond this physical reality we call the physical. And I think it's important that we also acknowledge it for what it is, and also realize that the fear barrier is just an illusion. There's nothing that we can do. There's nothing that they can do to keep you in that part. It's purely down to us and our programming and what we believe to be true. Now, I'm hoping that, there's been some value for some of you guys out there with this podcast. And I'm hoping my story has helped you to kind of believe that there's some truth to the astral, because there absolutely is. And there's lots more to come from me. And a big, big thank you to all of you who have subscribed and viewed and liked my channel. It means everything to me. And a big, big thank you. And I look forward to bringing the next one for you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.